CIN is proud to present.
CIN presents Perspective with Ronnie Thwaites.
Last week, we looked at the stranglehold the Shower posse exerted over the Jamaican state and introduced you to Christopher Dudus Coke, the Shower leader, now on trial in New York. The big problem for ordinary people like us has been the response of the Jamaican government to the extradition request for Coke by the U.S. authorities. Instead of treating the matter through the proper law enforcement and diplomatic channels, the story has been one tissue of concealment, obstruction, lies, half-truths, and more lies. For a small country like Jamaica, carrying with it much of the international repute of the rest of the Caribbean, the Dudus scandal has been worse, much worse than how Nixon covered up and lied about Watergate many years ago. We need Caribbean leaders who can inspire confidence and win the trust of nationals at home and abroad, to make us proud and secure to acknowledge our vine and fig tree, to invest safely, and to come back when we can. Instead, we first got one grand palaver about Mr. Dudus's human rights and how we shouldn't allow the Americans to push us around. And afterwards, when the pressure nearly busts and more awkward facts and motives emerged, a reverse back by the Prime Minister and the order to send Coke away, signed despite the previous swear to God that it would never be signed. Most of you know by heart the next chapters of this tragedy. Coke, having been tipped off, left the area. The community marched and then barricaded, and in the ensuing war, probably 100 and more Jamaicans and 3 security officers were killed. Billions of dollars of damage was done. The country has now to find more than $1 billion just to finance the operations that took place. And the taxpayers are being asked to hug up all these costs, which were totally unnecessarily foisted upon us by leaders who were in the thrall of Shower and probably still are. But more expensive than the money is the irreparable deficit of public trust which has been created. The suspicion now elevated to obvious reality of the government's survival need to defend an alleged gangster, even to the point of the Prime Minister's getting involved in the mix-up of hiring Manat, Phelps, and Phillips, one big American law firm, to lobby on behalf of the Coke issue, not to mention the bitter gall of having Mrs. Golding and Desmond McKenzie trying to wring the arms of U.S. diplomats in Kingston to give Dudus a bligh. As Judy Brown would have said in the family planning ad, look what we come to. Of course, some who defend state terrorism feel that any action which could even appear to tear down the Tivoli juggernaut must be okay. Others who have invested so much in the present order feel troubled, yes, but they do not allow their acknowledgement of serious deceptions and wrongs to lead them to obvious next steps. Wrongdoing is a human failing. It can be repented of and ought to be forgiven. Obstinate and continuing deception is of a different order. The leaders of the Jamaican state still have not regretted anything but the Prime Minister's involvement with the Manat hiring, even as the extradition, the Tivoli war, and the Shower tie-up clearly involve much deeper issues. So what hope do we have that given this continuing posture, any transformative change so badly needed can be led by this crew? Don't you think they're taking us for fools? Next week, the Dudus Gate Manat inquiry. What is being left out? That's my perspective.
That's Perspective with Ronnie Thwaites.